Good morning, everyone. Sorry about my volume setup yesterday. I didn't change anything on my setup at all. My mic just went crazy, and I double-checked. Everything looks to be working today, so apologies about yesterday. Yesterday, I reported that a student in Manitoba was suspended. A 17-year-old student was suspended because in choir she refused to wear a rainbow poppy for the Remembrance Day ceremony. And I did a long video on that, and apparently, she was suspended for posting this poster. The school has determined that this poster is hate speech, and this was the reason she was suspended, not the rainbow poppy. But there are still a lot of questions that are unanswered. I reached out to the school, and they sent me the same press release that I'm going to read in just a minute. It's here on Twitter. But first, I want to read the letter that the student was suspended for, and I want you to decide, is this hate speech or not? Because I'm having a hard time finding where the hate speech is. Okay, here it is. Keean Bexte of The Rebel is tweeting, quote, "I just spoke with Natalie. She's the red poppy-wearing suspendee. Contrary to what was reported, she was not suspended for wearing the rainbow poppy. She was suspended for sharing this poster. The school declared this hate speech. What do you think? Full story soon." And we're going to look at the criminal code as it affects hate speech, or as it relates to hate speech. But first, here we go. Quote, so this is just a white piece of paper that seems folded up. I don't know if there's just one. I've only seen pictures of this specific piece of paper. Just because of the crinkling around, nobody is very recognizable. This looks to be the same picture as the one that was tweeted out by her cousin, who was a Conservative MP candidate in the 2019 election. So anyway, here we go. It's just 4 quotes or 5 quotes on a page. Quote, "Never seen something so disrespectful in all my days. What does LGBTQ have to do with the war? Red represents blood. Black represents widows and loved ones. Green represents land the blood was spilled on. Never change the poppy." Quote, "Way to undo centuries of blood, sweat, and tears, all because you need to do the dishes." Quote, keep it in your pants. Nobody needs to see it, or nobody wants to see it, excuse me. Quote, "You've got a whole month dedicated to the LGBTQ community, but the people who legitimately made a difference and died so that we could live decent lives have one day. Yous don't need a poppy. You just clearly just want attention. One day to remember the real heroes. How about we don't make it about your sexuality for once?" Quote, "If you didn't make such a big deal about it and force people to make it a part of their lives, there would be no problems." Okay, I'm not sure how that would incite hatred. And the dishes thing, I don't understand at all. Maybe I'm just out of the loop on that, but I'm not sure how the dishes relates to any of this. Here's the statement from the Interlake School Division, and they say one of 3. Statement from the Board of Trustees of Interlake School Division, ISD, regarding recent social media coverage of the use of rainbow poppies. In light of misinformation which has been widely spread on social media, we will share that at no point did any staff member of Stonewall Collegiate or Interlake School Division District nor mandate any student to wear a rainbow poppy. The Board of Trustees will not comment on matters regarding individual students so as to maintain confidentiality for those involved. Media inquiries may be directed to Board Chair Alan Campbell or Superintendent CEO Margaret Ward. And Miss Ward did send me a response, but the response was basically the same. It was the media release that was put out. So I responded to her with some follow-up questions, and she did not get back to me yet. I will let you know if she does get back to me, because my questions I think were pertinent, but who knows. Here's Keean, and he says, "After defending the poppy and exercising the rights our vets fought to protect, Natalie's dad just called me. He says she feels like she's been hung out to dry by the mainstream media for trying to protect our poppies." And there's a link to protectourpoppies.ca. "I'm sending this petition to the school admins. Please join me." You know how I feel about petitions, though. Here's the criminal code on hate speech, and I just wanted you to be on board with me on this one, because I don't think this rises to that. I don't think this is hate speech. And well, I'll get to the real meat of this in just a minute, but here it is. Public incitement of hatred. 319(1). Everyone who, by communicating statements in any public place, incites hatred against any identifiable group where such incitement is likely to lead to a breach of the peace is guilty of A, an indictable offense and is liable to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 2 years, or B, an offense punishable on summary conviction. Willful promotion of hatred. 2, Everyone who, by communicating statements other than in private conversation, willfully promotes hatred against any identifiable group is guilty of an indictable offense and is liable to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 2 years, or an offense punishable on summary conviction. And a summary conviction is usually a fine, right? Your lawyer goes to the court for you and argues for a fine. Typically an indictable offense, you have to go to court yourself because you could be, locked up in prison. But a summary conviction, usually the lawyer will go, and if you do get jail time, you get to surrender at an agreed upon time, blah, 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 blah. And I wanted to point number 6 out, consent. No proceeding for an offense under subsection 2 should be instituted without the consent of the Attorney General. So if you want to charge somebody with number 2, if you want to proceed with something, you have to have the agreement of the Attorney General. So number 1, I don't know that this letter incites hatred against a group. They're saying this letter, or these quotes, I suppose, are talking about the dishes, which is strange, but saying, isn't this disrespectful? This is putting an argument forward, and maybe badly, but they're kids, right? They're 17, and that needs to be understood as well. And if you're putting the label of hate speech on this without trying to understand, and yesterday I talked a lot about the motivation, because the school said, what's the motivation for this? Well, I mean, I think the motivation is pretty clear. For 1, refusing to wear the poppy, and 2, for putting these quotes on a piece of paper to discuss them, because, well, it's an argument to be put forward. The student is saying, I disagree with you, and this is how much I disagree, and I don't know where these quotes come from, or there's no context about this other than the school decided that this is hate speech. And it seems like the only person who would be really impacted by this being put up, or with regard to a hate speech, it doesn't seem like it would be a lot of people. It doesn't seem like it would incite a lot of people to violence, which is a part of the criminal code standard, right? Like, it likely to lead to a breach of the peace, willfully promotes hatred against any identifiable group. This letter isn't saying LGBTQ shouldn't exist or shouldn't have anything to do with anything. We live in a free country, and if you want to wear a rainbow poppy, by all means, but don't force it, right? It just seems weird to me, right? It just seems strange to me that this is hate speech in this context, whereas in other contexts, it's okay. It just seems really, really like a bludgeon to kill a fly, right? Like a bazooka to kill a fly. Here's the Manitoba Education and Training Provincial Code of Conduct. I can't find the school code of conduct, and I should maybe look. Hold on. Okay, I do have the code of conduct and the handbook for the 2019-2020 school year for the Stonewall Collegiate Institute. And we're going to look at that in a minute. But I wanted to show you this. This is the reason that I brought this up. And this is the Provincial Code of Conduct for Manitoba Education and Training. Okay, so unacceptable behavior includes but is not limited to the following: bullying, cyberbullying, harassment, discrimination, threats to self and others, gang involvement, possession of a weapon, possession or being under the influence of alcohol, cannabis, or an illicit drug, inappropriate use of the internet and electronic communication, appropriate interventions and disciplinary consequences. Now, there's a whole bunch of stuff to go through here, and I'm not going to read all of this because it's quite thick, but I wanted to show this specifically. Here's the student suspension guide on page 7. Link is in the description if you want to read it. And it says, alternatives should be considered before suspension, e.g. classroom strategies, in-school alternatives, school-wide programs, and alternative and or off-site locations. A teacher may suspend a student from the classroom for not more than 2 days. So if a teacher suspends a student from the classroom, they go down and work in the principal's office or with a youth care worker or something to that effect. A principal may suspend a student from the school for not more than 5 days. A superintendent may suspend a student from the school for not more than 6 weeks. A parent and or pupil may make a request to appear before the school board to make representations about a suspension. A school board may, upon receiving such representation, confirm or modify the suspension or reinstate the pupil. And then expulsion, which doesn't apply in this situation. But here's the handbook, and I went through it looking for policies on hate speech, and there are none. I'll read you the student rights and responsibilities because they're pretty clear, and I'll show you some other stuff here. But fundamentally, hate speech isn't covered under this. And claiming that this is hate speech unilaterally, and then suspending the girl for 3 days or 4 days till after Remembrance Day, which this whole thing kind of hinges on anyway, is kind of strange. Doesn't fit with me. Doesn't seem right to me. Okay. Student rights and responsibilities from the 2019-2020 year. I have a right to learn. It is my responsibility to be on time, to be prepared, and to do my best. I have the right to hear and to be heard. It is my responsibility to communicate in a way that does not disturb others when they are speaking and learning. I have the right to be treated with respect. It is my responsibility to act in a way that does not tease, bother others, or hurt their feelings. When conflicts occur, it is my responsibility to solve these conflicts peacefully through discussion. I have a right to be safe. It is my responsibility to move in an orderly manner throughout the building and behave in a way that does not threaten or physically harm anyone. I have the right to have my personal property respected. It is my responsibility to respect school property and the property of others. Okay, I'm not sure that this poster violates any of those things. I don't think that this threatens anybody. As I said, I think it's putting an argument forward, and I think it's doing it in a clumsy way, but I say again, 17, right? Time to use this as a teachable moment, in my opinion, right? Hold on a second. I'm going to get to the next part. Sorry, the last two. I have a right to have my personal property respected, like her phone when she's trying to record something. It is my responsibility to respect the school property and the property of others. Right. I think that's pretty standard, and it is pretty standard. You know, pretty much every high school has something like this in their handbook, right? Hold on, next section. Here's the Code of Conduct on page 8, and it says the Stonewall Collegiate Code of Conduct. We believe that all people have the right to emotional and physical safety, and that these rights are accompanied by responsibilities. We ultimately believe that the best discipline is self-discipline, and to achieve that goal, responsibility is with the students, the staff, and the parents. Students, in order to be respectful, responsible, and accountable, students will comply with the Code of Conduct. That's what we're reading now. Attend school regularly and be on time. Be prepared for classes by bringing the required materials and completed assignments. Treat all others in the community and in the school and community with dignity and respect. Resolve their problems without violence or aggression. Oh, like putting forward an argument? Yeah. Show respect for school property and the personal property of others. Dress appropriately in a manner suitable for a learning atmosphere. Refrain from the use of drugs, alcohol, or any controlled substances. Adhere to school policies respecting appropriate use of technology. Staff. In order to be respectful, responsible, and accountable, staff will treat all members of the school and community with courtesy, respect, consistency, and fairness. Communicate information about students' progress, attendance, and behavior to students, parents, and administration. Be punctual. Clearly state course objectives and use variety of teaching assessment strategies in lessons and assignments that are academically appropriate. Teach the Manitoba curriculum diligently. Provide a positive learning environment which is orderly, safe, and supportive. Be fair and consistent in the treatment of students. I'm not going to go through the parents' expectations because it just doesn't apply here. It goes through what to do if you vape, what to do if you smoke, what to do if you're graduating, and what to do if you're, this whole big list. If you stay for lunch, but it doesn't say what to do if you have a disagreement and you put up a poster. It doesn't say what happens if the principal and other people start yelling at you for having different views. It doesn't say what to do if you get suspended for hate speech, because it doesn't mention hate speech in here at all. There's no mention of it. I'm doing Control F for hate, but it's not in this document. So I think that it's really, really interesting to hold this student to a standard that nobody has introduced to my knowledge anyway, and maybe they have, who knows. I'm certainly not the authority on this. I have called the school. I am trying to get as accurate information as I can to tell you. But does this rise to hate speech in your mind, dear viewer? It doesn't in mine. I don't think that I don't think that the school has much of a grounds to have her out of school for this. Inciting hatred in my mind, and I've looked unsuccessfully for the definition of inciting hatred. I kept coming back to the law, right? To this law here, the 319, 1 and 2. Or that's not the law. Here's the law. 319, 1 and 2. But it doesn't give me what constitutes hatred, right? If you're promoting hatred, okay, if you're saying, kill all the people, destroy all the people of whatever identifiable group, fine. But it's saying, should this identifiable group overtake this other identifiable group, is that hate? I mean, I don't know. And because I can't find a definition. So perhaps that's my failing. I'm not trying to blame anybody. Oh goodness, this is already 15 minutes and I've got like another video coming up. Okay, I'm going to end it here, but fundamentally, is this hate? Should somebody be suspended without consulting the Attorney General? Because, I mean, proceedings shouldn't proceed without the consent of the Attorney General for a criminal case. And I understand this isn't criminal, but should middle managers in a school somewhere in Manitoba to get to declare this hate speech and have this girl removed from education for a few days because of it? I don't know. What do you think? Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.